Hello everybody and welcome to Let's Play Combat Mission. Now this is the third battle in Carentan operation. Before I start, I have been suffering from some flu-like symptoms. I had to rest a couple of days because of that, and still I have some bit of a leftover form of very sore throat and some coughs. So I hope you're okay with that, as I try to get over myself and my voice kind of trails off sometimes. Yeah, alright, so without further ado, let's go and try to see what we have here. This is the way I left battle number 2. I think that was a night battle. And it was a pretty interesting battle because I had to assume position as soon as possible and try to fight off the German counterattack. And here is where I think the German counterattack will come from. Once again in battle 3. And this is the newly revealed territory, and then we can see the river. Yes, overview of the map itself, with clusters of soldiers still present where they left off. And yeah, I do believe that I need to advance there first, near the tall pines. And using the right flank, trying to travel through here. As you can see, the focage is there, but also some low-lying hedges that we can cross. So I believe that we can use that area in order to perhaps outflank the Germans. I don't know what that wheat field and close by that focage is. And here's one bridge, the first bridge to cross the... Well, I think that's a swamp, but also swamp itself can be crossed. And there is a second bridge over the river Douve. Yeah, so I don't know whether I can actually reach there, but when fast enough, I'd be able to perhaps reach the swamp. Now, I kind of suspect the swamp was implemented there. Well, I guess there are some swamps near the region, definitely, and also because the author of this operation could have thought that since this game does not feature any crossing of waterways, they can just use swamp to pretend that it's kind of shallow water so that the Americans can cross it. Yeah, so here is a newly deployed guys. I put some tanks near the shrubs, near the cover, so they'll not be detected first turn by the German gun. And I have set up these guys along the highway here to go along to the intersection, and the middle, it's a bit of a broad front where I like to just, get to the cover as soon as possible and prepare for any support fire for the main force leading the way in the main highway. The right flank, trying to go through that pathway. Hopefully I'll be able to make it without detection. I sneak all along. And that's the intersection of the highway. I think that's, I don't know what they call it, N13 or something, that crosses into Carentan. And it has some other intersections along the way that is, yeah. And as you go further up, there's a swamp, the first bridge. I don't think the vehicles can cross swamps, so they have to use a bridge, which means that there will be bottleneck for the 6 tanks I have. It's going to be a problem, but hopefully not the problem for this operation. Yeah, so this is overview, zoomed out map. So we have ways to cover, more map has been revealed. And I'm debating whether to use a left flank, this is a really hopeful scenarios I'm kind of projecting here. If I make it through that intersection, if I arrive there and rejoin with the rest of the group, there's some possibility of trying to split up from there to attack different sections of, well, leading to the river. Yeah, so, the first turn is going to be just walking through the center of town to the intersection and try to see and anticipate any German counterattacks. There surely be lying somewhere in the cover that is for certain, and there are a lot of covers that they can hide in, a lot of focage and hedges they can hide. And Yeah, so this is rather similar in the last battle in that I try to use the covers as soon as possible, get in the covers and see and wait for the Germans to appear. And if they don't, I can advance using cover to cover, supporting each other with fire and overwatch. Yeah, so this is the first turn. I'm just giving them direction to get to the nearest cover. Nothing too special, nothing too outlandish, and only thing that I've done that is kind of maybe kind of strange is I given the artillery spotting, and these guys also the right detachment guys I have just it's too far from the main group. I'm kind of banking on them not being detected by the Germans and using the cover, using the barrage to hide ourselves and go basically run to the swamp, but also taking care not to be detected. So I'll be sneaking all along. I mean, sneaking itself is pretty... You can cover pretty good ground. They're veteran groups, so there's very little delay, and as you can see, the veteran group has dug themselves a hole, the foxhole. So I guess this is what they do if they start out in the covers. They help themselves and they use a space to make little nice foxholes for themselves. But they have to soon move, unfortunately. Yeah, so the computer is now... I don't know where the computer is right now. Just want to get to nearest cover as soon as possible. Tall pines, low-lying bushes, tall grass. And yeah, these are enlarged depictions. I think it's +2. So they're not large. Yeah, and this is the right detachment going to first get that house. See if whoever is in there. Nobody's there. Yeah, so nobody's there. It's a nice little cover for us. And the next objective is going to be that big 2-story house. And we hear something. Some kind of artillery that, I don't know, is fired from the German side. Or some leftover order that is now being executed upon. Yeah, Germans bring a lot of artillery. Last battle, I don't really know exactly what happened, but I think the Germans definitely did target us like that. Doesn't sound anything like any of the artillery that I have. 76mm does not make that loud a noise, and 155mm makes a tremendous noise. It's like a lot of things, you know, as if some kind of wooden structure was breaking every time it did something. The first turn is over. Yeah, so still keeping the artillery spotted. Here where I gave them the first orders. Yeah, so okay. So further moving into cover as soon as possible. As fast as possible before we encounter Germans, and excuse me, and also using the right group in order to cross into the field, open ground, past the hedgerow there. Yeah, so these are the current approximation of where I think the Germans will be coming from. It's a just educated guess. These are the guys on the left side going to cover, and I hear already someone being shot from some entrenched German right there, so the deployment was pretty close to where we started. Yeah, and then one mysterious artillery strike. Kind of strange what happened there. Certainly it's way too close to where the Germans started. I think that it was their artillery. Maybe it was from the air. Royal Air Force dropping some bombs. Yeah, and it's a lot of action from the very beginning, and we see some Germans coming up from the left road, merging into highway. And we are there fortunately to fight them and shoot them. bit of a shooting gallery over there. They try to move into the main intersection. Yep, they're marching, they're running. And it's a sign of good disciplined soldier to move away from the possible artillery strike like I am. No, this is not my artillery at all. This is some bomber strike or something. Because my artillery still has a minute left before it starts firing. Yeah, so already made a lot of noise. So I think our stealthy approach to the intersection is, more or less failed tactic. Just might as well move and then try to defend from the onslaught. Yeah, so we see some Germans on the left side. I changed my artillery spotting. It was a mistake to target there, but it reset the whole delay between the time of spotting and time of strike. It's like 2 to 3 minutes, which is a lot of time. It's like 3 turns, which is just lifetime in terms of how we have to react to their advances. Taking us on the line of sight here is pretty good, so I was thinking about maybe crossing the road to get a better distance between them and us, but no need. On the right side we are just moving unperturbed. It's really quiet still, but not so in the left. I expected something to happen in the middle, but this is where all the action is. It's like 200 to 300 meters firing, but then we were able to unseat that machine gun, which targeted us, ambushed us, one of our units, and damaged us.
Yes, sir.
And we are just pouring fire into them. They're moving very smartly along the tall pines, not using the road itself. They're not as well shielded as they would have liked, because on the other side of the road it's also tall pines, and maybe they thought that they'd be shielded. And they'll be shielded for a while, but in this turn they are exposed, so they have to go to the ground and use some kind of foxholes that were already there. Yeah, and now the Germans started firing. It's a really quick reaction from them. Maybe they have artillery spotter that is directly on top of us. That's the only reason how they're able to shoot within 2 turns of the game starting. 2 or 3 turns. But it's a really accurate shot, and we are in trouble on the left flank. We cannot even move, we are pinned. On the middle, there's nothing really identified, so we are moving up a bit. And I'm also moving the tanks on the south side, trying to find the open space so that I'll be able to aim at these guys, but it's a wishful thinking. Yeah, so we are moving up and trying to get to the cover from that island of little shrub that I stationed my heavy weapons such as machine guns and mortars. I'm moving up, I think, one of the machine guns to prepare ourselves for the eventual fight that's going to happen as they move into the intersection. And all these guys have machine guns that are able to target some part of the road that is where the Germans are, but not right now, unfortunately. Yeah, and these, I'm trying to still... Oh, there was 1 German guy and 2 German units. So, I know that these guys are coming. And I like to occupy that house, which is slightly damaged, but still pretty useful. The 2nd story, so it has a better vantage point if we get the machine gun up there. For any of the veteran troops, it's going to be pretty good. Yeah, and the German artillery still harasses us on the left flank. They have definitely selected their target in a very wise manner. We're going to be pinned as they try to advance. And they try to change positions, but look at that. Look at the amount of lines they're targeting them. These guys finally moving into the house. It's going to be a very important objective for us, right in the intersection. It's going to be a kind of a fort. And these guys are all pinned. just almost sounds like one of those rockets. Like how they sound before, before landing. Sounds like they're using some kind of never Belfer or any kind of rocket pods that Germans use to try to blanket the area with a lot of explosives, and it works. I mean, because I cannot really do anything. I'm pinned. And so the suppressive fire only comes from the extreme left of the flank. In the middle, I'm kind of not be able to do anything. So I'm trying to move them, displace them, to let them escape into the other side of the road and move also closer to the intersection before any more Germans from the middle can come. On the right side, I'm giving them orders to just move ahead as quick as possible. Yeah, and the artillery might now start up. Maybe this turn or next turn. And this target is not... it's not really a good target anymore because I know that the Germans can move. But then to give another spotting order is going to cause additional 2 to 3 minute delay, so... Yeah, I'm just trying to stop whoever the initial German troops from actually using that road. Any additional Germans that may linger around, I like to just keep them away as far as possible before I get to entrench myself and ready to defend. And the artillery is relentless. It sounds a bit different from the last time. This guy is moving out of the artillery range, but he's now being faced with the prospect of facing the Germans. Encountering Germans right there. Yeah, that is, I think, the German that is closing in to the intersection. As you can see, they moved. With the artillery suppressing our troops, they were able to move freely. Still, the artillery is making things really difficult for the middle part of our right flank. And now, I think also in the middle part there are some Germans appearing, converging at the same time, so there's some coordination happening using the roads, so he's closing distance really quickly before I can lob any artillery shells there. Yeah, and there's a HQ unit that has been rattled to the core and now is broken. That's the first time it happened. The HQ unit very variable with 2 attributes. Losing 2 or 3 units and 3 people from each unit and becoming uncontrollable, panicking. Yeah, so I think in terms of artillery usage, I definitely have to admit that I've not really done a good job. I think Germans definitely did have an upper hand in sweeping us away from the middle as much as possible. Yeah, so this is the next turn, turn 6. I think the artillery is going to fire, or they have to fire. On the right side, they keep moving, so on that front, there's some progress made. I also hope to bring the tanks here in the middle in order to support the artillery, support the infantry now in full battle. The rest of the tanks are in reserves. And hopefully the artillery is going to make things difficult for them as they did for us. It did against us in the early goings. Now we're going into the middle part of the battle. And we have not really set ourselves, well, did not really do ourselves any favor by still trying to move and settle in. But we are making some effort there. And here, yeah, kind of deciding to use a little bit of a cover there to skip around to the right. And here I have some nice Overlord soldiers that are still overwatching on the left side, but they probably need to move. That was the broken down HQ unit running to the nearest cover away from the artillery. And finally the German has taken notice of us shooting at them. And they're also moving pretty quickly, followed by the second unit. And we revealed it as Portion Jaeger, quickly dispatched by the unit on top of the building. Fortunately have made up their way up there. A lot of shooting, and still their German artillery firing its shots and landing pretty close to where we are, and that is open ground where the HQ unit has taken refuge, which is pretty bad news. And now he's basically had enough and is trying to run for the nearest Vauxhall or Trader. And it's really overwhelming, this firing. It did a number on us, and another very accurate shot that ended. I don't know whether it damaged this guy further. I don't think so, but lost lost a person from each unit. And finally, the main highway is the battleground. I think around 100 to 200 meters between us. Yeah, so the Germans are closing in pretty fast using the artillery, so I think that is a pretty good gambit on their part. I'm here to just scramble, and the only thing I have is more men, I think, to our side, and also I have a higher ground and some more cover that I can make use. And also I had the right group that is moving pretty fast. And then there is also a possibility that I can use those guys to launch some kind of a pincer attack on the middle group here. And I'm still waiting for the artillery to aim at this guy, so I think I adjusted a bit. Well, I adjusted one artillery 76mm to target, I think, in the middle, or I think I did 155mm with around 30 shots to also target in the middle. The left, I think, there are not really many Germans appearing from the left side anymore, so I gave the artillery spotter order to encounter the latest threat, the biggest threat. In the left flank there are some soldiers unscathed, still hiding in the tall pines. Need to move them to add to the strength in the middle, as they could falter any moment from the Germans. They bring out the big guns, so to speak. I don't know, I thought that they had some 88mm also among them, part of defensive force around Carentan, but haven't seen any big guns aside from their, I think, what do you call it, 15 SFH artillery gun in the first battle, but yeah, I think it's all infantry battle so far. And then the second floor giving them a pretty advantage to target any Germans. And not against these guys, but fortunately the artillery started falling, or that's the mortar. So in this battle I try to use the mortar units a bit better by giving them some area targets and giving them high positions on which they can perch themselves and see what is happening. Also like to mix in more HQ units among the units so they have better fighting chance against the enemy. And these guys that keep coming on with the mortar rounds, and here you can see one of them firing relentlessly. We're in a higher position, so that's actually a good bonus for us. It gives us a lot of advantage. And here is the guy, right there, aiming at any enemy that they can spot in the middle highway. And I think finally the artillery started falling, especially the 76mm toward the left side. Yeah, so this is going to be a big battle now. I think the German artillery has subsided, so we can now move a bit, as you can see here. The left flank is now trying to close the distance between us and the enemy, trying to help, also fire support toward the middle, and and trying to also cross to the other side of the road here before the intersection, and also moving up some of the reserves in the rear. Yeah, so we are not really hanging back anymore. We are committing all the infantry units that I have against these guys, except for the armor, some of them are staying back. On the right side, we are moving. Yeah, we are still moving on the right side undetected, so I think we'll be able to make some good progress there. But the problem is they have some big hedgerows or barrage that is stopping us from helping in the middle. They're still shooting, but they really don't have any lack of targets. And finally, the big artillery, 155mm, started falling on the Germans. Not time too soon. And we are basically pouring everything in with the soldiers. They're being attacked, but thankfully we are in a crater there. And all the other guys on the left are now trying to move, trying to close in. This time also using the artillery as a bit of a cover, and also the mortar here, as you can see, there's some multiple mortar units now firing at whoever they can see. Yeah, so this is our turn to shell them. It's a pretty big gun. There's some interval between the strikes, but I am committing 2 artillery, 255mm artillery there, so it's going to leave a mark, definitely. And I think some of the German units are pinned, they cannot advance any further. So let's see. So moving a lot of troops toward the front, so there's really not much of a reserve anymore. On the right side, we are still moving, and they're just giving them order, so that I just set it and forget it for a couple of turns as they move, or until they meet some enemy that they have to face. It's going to be a problem since I have a really light assortment of group right there. In the middle, I'm trying to think about how to kind of move up this heavy weaponry I have, machine guns, and also trying to target the incoming Germans using the main highway. Thankfully, I have a lot of forces already committed. With a brief look on the right side. Yeah, and I was still bringing up troops to face the Germans here. And I have a couple of units now in the house, one in the top of the house, and I also gave the machine gun guy to move up, the 40 caliber machine gun guy. Yeah, and the mortars are still being directed toward the left flank. My main concern is to the middle, as the Germans have a lot of troops coming, trying to overwhelm us. But thankfully the artillery is making things rather difficult for the enemy. And some of them are already broken and running away. Oh, maybe they're not broken, but they want to get out of the artillery range. But the thing is, I have 2 artilleries targeting a pretty good portion of the highway, and the machine gun is trying to run away. Yeah, I don't know why they don't run using the road. I don't know why they try to cross into the open ground. So this is the middle road that I'm showing, and they leave a really big mark. It's a pretty fearsome sight, and they're not graphically enlarged or anything. I think that's why it is. So it's leaving like around 2 or 3 meters crater in diameter every time it strikes the ground. So it's really substantial armament. Yeah, so we can count a lot of Germans here. I think I count at least 7 or 8 that are on the highway trying to fight us. And unfortunately, even though we can fight them where we stand, I don't think we can make any progress unless we count the guys to the right still moving. We need to get to the Douve river as quick as possible and capture bridges. I don't know how many bridges that we have to capture, but from what I read from the Carentan operation, you know, the real historical count, there are at least 4. So we played half of the operation here, and it seems like a bit of a stalemate going on. We do have the artillery now. We can still bring on top of Germans' heads. And these guys, machine guns, still trying to. I don't know what he's trying to do. Moving around in open ground, not really doing anything productive. And this is the amount of fire that we pour in toward the middle. Any Germans that are hiding in the wooden cover on the side of the road. Yeah, and once again the artillery is riding as if on a queue. don't know exactly how much of blast radius it has, but definitely affecting the Germans. As we have stopped them from pulling their tracks. Yeah. And mortars also firing at that machine gun guy. And we identify yet another unit and he's able to target it thanks to the high ground. And I'm playing around with the graphical representation. Yeah, one of the reasons why this guy is still dancing around open ground despite being targeted by like more than 10 units for 2 turns, I think it's because, I mean, you can see that, I mean, it's a pretty small blip on that map if you see the default size of the unit. I'm playing because I guess from the lack of better vision or anything like that, I have to, you know, see what is happening on the ground, see where they're going and stuff like that, and not lose them. So yeah, that is that area that I hope to go from the beginning of the operation, but I don't think I can because there are a lot of Germans I have to go through. Like I said, there's yeah, the default size for these units are really small, so it's going to be pretty problematic for these guys to target that small unit, even though they are open ground from a distance of 100 to 300 meters. That is part of the reason why we cannot really just shoot them and destroy them like in any RTS or anything like that. Yeah, they keep being shot at, but you know, they're just really wasting a lot of bullets, a lot of ammo. I'm sure that like more than 90% of spent ammo really didn't find any target. And that found a target, yeah, thanks to blast radius, one of the lone units got shelled by the artillery and was eliminated. Yeah, it's this guy still moving around in open field, trolling us. Yeah, finally gave up. I like to think that they surrendered. Or just playing dead or something. They're out of the picture anyway, so we can target more units, other units, closer to us. Such as this guy. Yeah, the artillery is making things very miserable, I bet, on the enemy. Yeah, that is going to hurt. Definitely better performance of the artillery than the last battle. They're tying up more than 8 units on the German side. And these guys made a pretty good way, yeah, pretty good headway right there. They're going past where the Germans are now. And just legging it toward the swamp. And once again, it's just trying to fend them off and see if we can advance and counterattack. If their strength is sagging or is any indication that they're running away or anything like that. It'd be nice if I can use the tanks to push them and use that open field, but I'm sure that there'll be some German guns and Panzerschrecks hiding. Yeah, so that's why I am kind of reluctant to position the armor at the forefront. And I don't really read any account of there being an armor in the actual Carentan operation. But there could have been some heavy weaponry like mortar and machine guns, stuff like that, but no tank. I don't know whether it's correct, but the first mention of armor like Sherman that I can read from the accounts are when the Carentan was taken. There was a big counterattack on the part of the Germans trying to take back the town, and Omar Bradley, for the whole combat group, composed a lot of armor and Shermans to help the Airborne fend off the charge from the German army forces. The whole battle with Bloody Gulch. And here we are fighting. Some of the guys are trying to do double duty of fighting the guys on different highway, different roads, to their right and to their left. And these guys are not trying to rush us a bit, but you know, things are a bit different, and that's wise. This guy is caught in the open road, which is really bad. I think they're chicken from the artillery strike onto the main road, and here they're trying to sneak their way in here using the wood as a cover, but Yeah, and if they are still in the cover, they cannot move as fast. So I think that's why they're using the open ground, sorry, to travel quickly, close the distance. Because they can't even shoot there effectively from where they are, so they need to close the distance between us and them, thereby, yeah, having a better chance. And I think they're pretty good troops too. Like they're pretty well trained and veteran troops. So using the open ground to quickly run toward us. But I don't know whether this charge is going to be beneficial in the end, because I have a lot of guns and a lot of well-entrenched troops waiting for them. Yeah, and still moving around in the left flank, trying to inch their way up. These guys are all pinned, but there's still a substantial number of units there. I think one of them being a HQ unit. Yeah, and the other lines are pretty confusing. They're actively engaged. Some of them, I think, due to low ammo, or I don't know, they're maybe taking a rest or something, but I give them order to shoot and try to resist. Excuse me. Yeah, and one of the units have made their way to the crossroads intersection, but they're being harassed by multiple gunfire. So are the different units, and now the tank is now trying to fight them off as well. It's a bit of a sliver of window where they can target the approaching unit. And this guy has been there for some time and still the target of multiple units, and finally had enough and trying to displace. Yeah, and some of the units are being pushed back finally, giving us opportunity to counterattack, but I think better of it. I can maintain my position for at least a couple more turns before even thinking about moving. And once again, attempt by the Germans to charge our position, but defeat it back and goes into cover. Yeah, they think that they're stopping us, so I mean, if they stop us, they've done their job. And if they stop us by inflicting, some damage, then even better. I think it's their aim, trying to stop us. Right there in the intersection. And Germans, I don't know whether the Germans have, I don't know how many more shells the Germans have, but they started firing at the middle position, which is going to sting. Yeah, so still the artillery is targeting them, and also, yeah, so this is the next turn 14, and I think I gave one of my artillery spotter a bit of adjustment to close into the middle of the pack of Germans that I can identify, and there's some crews, for some reason, maybe the border team. Yeah, and a lot of these guys now moving closer to the enemy, while the Germans are still active and still entrenched, so it could be a bit risky, but I'm trying to move some of the units toward the intersection. Now in this area, yeah, they're still trying to move as quick as possible while going is good, meaning that I'll be able to reach the swamp and try to cross it, although it's going to seriously slow them down. Oh my goodness, yeah, one of the units there has been revealed to be a flamethrower, so it could have definitely been worse if they actually managed to close the distance. Yeah, and the Germans finally answering back. It took them some time, but it is going to be, yeah, I would have done the same too if I had extra artillery. I would have done the same, trying to target the building, if anything, of all things. We have a lot of soldiers now committed to defend this position, the flashpoint, and I don't think we'll be able to give up this area anytime soon, unless the Germans bring their flamethrowers near where we are and then just engulf the entire place in flames. We're still shooting them, they find targets, and this guy is trying to move and run. This guy is, yeah, that guy is actually retreating. So you're pushing them back a bit, yeah, definitely, and the artillery definitely was a help. Now we are being suppressed by their artillery, so I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe the Germans will try to, you know, kind of rejoin themselves near the intersection, try to push forward against our well-defended position. But we have a lot of men. We have a lot of men, and 2 tanks now committed, firing everything they've got. Some of the tanks are staying back, but they can also be pressed into service. And yeah, taking out all the Germans. There are some Germans on the left flank, but you can identify them. And nor can we try to, because we'll be in the open ground and vulnerable. So right away we start shooting, and maybe some German artillery also. There's my artillery, and blast knocked this unit out. The artillery has been very effective. Yeah, definitely. And we are moving toward the middle of the intersection, but it's being clipped by the Germans and lost 1 unit or 1 person from that group. This guy made... Oh, yeah, this guy also got hit. Yeah, the Germans are really accurate with their guns. There was a first shot that they ambushed us with, and we lost men. I don't know how many, 1 or 2. Yeah, but this guy have a better idea and running for the cover. That's good. But these veteran guys know how to move about in times of distress. They run to the nearest cover without being without being in the direction. So I appreciate that. They know what to do. They carry themselves with a lot of poise. They don't get rattled as easily. Although there was that time where the cannon bomb exploded nearby, really shook 1 particular unit to the core, even though they were unscathed. They just couldn't handle that blast and was broken. But that could happen, it's kind of random. But mostly they're pretty well guided by these highly experienced HQ units and highly talented, highly talented and a veteran HQ unit with Force 3 attributes. And a machine gun, 40 cal machine gun is out there. Plenty of ammo to shoot. It's a pretty good perch, and it's being covered by a lot of different guys on the ground, so it can probably not be harmed as much. Wish I had a couple snipers with me as well. I think that was the last of the 76mm artillery. Still shooting with mortars and tanks. So we basically bottled these guys up from the left. Now we have to advance toward the middle like I'm doing right now. I'm trying to flush them out. This guy's running away from us along with the flamethrower tagging. So they are bringing like flamethrowers and panzer tracks and different nice interesting mix of units to counter us. Yeah, these guys being hit, they don't miss any good chance of ambushing us in the open ground, so they're pretty good. I mean, they have a really good way of identifying these guys, trying to move up. And these guys are running, good idea. They leapfrog their comrades now being pinned. Was able to make it pretty handily. So we are trying to counterattack bit by bit, applying pressure. And trying to see whether they break. I don't know how their morale is like, but kind of guessing around 60%, so if it goes a bit lower than that, I think they're more liable to run. And I think all my artillery is now spent, so this is not going to be just small arms battle. Well, I mean, you know, I have a couple of Shermans too, but yeah, I'm kind of afraid to bring them toward the middle of the road because I kind of suspect that they have big bad German guns awaiting us. And I checked the line of sight on the tank, and it definitely can reach to that intersection just before that swamp. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty dicey situation if the German gun finds us waiting for us all this time for anything on the road, and this Sherman appears, then it's not going to miss. Yeah, a lot of shooting. For the majority of the fight, there was a lot of shooting. Now this guy tries to move, and I think it's going to be clipped by one of the Germans. Gonna miss a good chance to find us on open ground and kind of vulnerable position. Yeah, and they started running. These guys. This guy's retreating from that area, and one of the other guy has been knocked out. Yeah, so yeah, we're trying to get to the other side of the road and closing in to the Germans. But some of these units are being, you know, of course, being shot at like that, as you can see by the yellow lines. And I don't think they got harmed, but yeah, they got alerted and they ran. So it's all good. Many more units are making their way across the open field to apply more pressure on the Germans. Yeah, and there's no way for the Germans now to be able to combine their forces. On the right, yeah, we made a lot of progress now on the outskirts of the swamp, trying to cross it. I don't know if they make it. There are apparently a lot of swamps in this region, and I think we're going to see a lot more as we progress toward Carentan. It's going to be pretty bad for us as we have moved through that narrow, you know, strip of land surrounded by swamp as the Germans are waiting. I think that's what exactly happened, and it was actually a Medal of Honor recipient from that particular fight because of some crazy things that happened. Still holding on and finally knocked out. So we basically handled things pretty well on the left side. There are a couple of residual Germans trying to, I don't know, just waiting on the wings, but I think they're going to be not as effective. Not our concern. Still trying to, yeah, shoot them. I don't know whether they actually are there from the last known location, but from their voices I think they are nearby. Definitely hear the voices. The Germans, I think they brought also some of the Jägers, the paratroopers, alongside maybe some SS troops as well. I don't know why, but the save files indicate that I'm facing on some SS troops. They actually show you like what kind of what nationalities are involved in the particular scenario or save files, and it was American flag and SS. So I think there may be some SS involved here, and yeah, it's not good news for us going forward. That they were more or less stationed near Khan, but yeah, these guys are still there. The first Jägers are, I think, the 6th regiment, the German side, and we still have some guys really close, 50 meters or so, trying to block us. And we're still moving though. We are definitely moving and trying to gain the last bit of land before everything's said and done. It falls onto these guys. I really do not relish the task at hand for these guys trying to push forward against incoming fire, and pretty accurate fire at that. And yeah, some of these guys are running back. Don't really feel safe to be the vanguard of this the risky maneuver. And yeah, from these guys on the left still finding some targets. I mean, it's a pretty straight road. Kind of wondering whether the German guns are there also to target our infantry if we ever try to cross the road. And they're running. It's a pretty good decision. Yeah, finally made it to the tall pines, so they're rather safe. They can now try to support our guys as we try to move up the highway and take care of that 2 German units still standing around shooting at us. And so the right group has finally started crossing the swamp. I don't know whether that's going to make any... I don't know whether it's going to matter though in the end, in terms of the territory taken. Because the bulk of forces are still kind of mired in the middle, as you can see. Yeah. not really much of a line of sight from there for the mortar unit perched on top of that area. He thought that he has some line of sight to support the infantry, but he has to move. Yeah, so the final turn is just trying to advance as far as possible, bring the tanks in and cause as much damage. As the morning now goes into afternoon, I guess the time period of 1 to 3 hours passed by. We're going into noon. Yeah, these guys are still hanging on. They're in the foxhole. They're in a pretty good position. Yeah, so 2 units are fighting us actively, targeting us as we move forward and crossing the swamp. Yep. Not a thankful job, but it has to be done. Especially for the infantry, make their way for the armor. Yeah, still fighting pretty valiantly, trying to hold us off. But finally, one of them succumbs, the guy who was not in the foxhole. This guy in the foxhole still able to fight to another battle. Yeah, so we didn't really cross the swamp and it's going to cost us, I think. But we are able to fend off the Germans once again and I think cause some bit of damage. I don't know how many units I've lost, but that artillery barrage really did a number on us in the beginning. Actual fighting itself, I don't think really hurt us, damaged us. And next time I think we have to at least go there to the intersection, or at least hope to be there by this time, but I wasn't able to because I had to fend up whole lot of Germans, using the highway to pour into the intersection. And checking out some of the statistics, I don't know whether it really is accurate because I have eliminated all these kind of guys, but there are really no kills recorded for most of the guys who fought. So maybe these Germans are still injured or something, not outright killed, just injured. So it's not really confirmed as to whether they can come back and fight, pressed into fighting. So I guess that's why it's not really shown whether I have given like really confirmed that I inflicted certain so and so damage. And it is also borne out by the after action effort because I cannot really see how many excess defender has been lost. On our side, 33 casualties, 11 KIA, so it's pretty similar to the last time. Yeah, so this time it's now I think going into afternoon. So one more battle here before the nightfall once again. And we gained a whole, well, I mean not a lot of territory, but we see now where there's a fork in the road and how things are like past that river Douve. And there's no, I mean it's pretty similar to what we've been facing without buildings. A lot of different shrubs and the riverbanks are kind of lined with all this cover, kind of goes into the riverbank on a slope, so there might be some, you know, ambushes and opportunities to hide and entrench. Yeah, there's some border strike mark there, some artillery craters still, so it's going to be a lot more of those. Next battle, I think the Germans will definitely be stationed there. And I think thanks to the guys on the right who traveled all along the right flank without a rest for the most of the turns in the last battle, we were able to gain some ground, variable ground, at least most of the highway between the Come-du-Mont and the swamp that has to be crossed before the river. And some high ground past the bridge. We have to capture the bridge, but there's no, you know, the flag or something like that. I guess you just have to make progress past the bridge, then it's going to be counted as being occupied and taken. Yeah, and then we gain some reinforcement, as you can see in the left. A pretty good mix of troops and 2 additional tanks, which is really welcome. And I think I have around 8 tanks now. And I guess that is enough tanks to kind of try a bit more combined force tactics as he trying to push forward, but unfortunately we're going to be funneled through that bridge. Tanks cannot cross. I mean, there will be some shallow waters in the river, but it's going to be a bit far away from where we're going to start. And then the tanks really cannot, cross the swamp, unfortunately, so they have to use a bridge. So once again, it's going to be infantry tactics and see if the infantry can carry the day once again. Yeah, I'm moving the tanks up and see what the line of sight is going to be like. It's going to be blocked where the barrage is, but aside from that, it's a pretty rolling hill. Provide for a lot of straight away shooting on the road. There may be some guns, there may be some German guns hidden near the bridge, and also some 88mm guns. Still haven't seen any, even the edge of Carentan area, so I mean we have to probably make haste and go as fast as possible, but I also have to wait for the German counterattacks that might happen, and yeah, the similar thing as I did with the group on the right. Alright, thanks for watching for this battle, and I'm sorry for my raspy voice. Hopefully I can get better. And until next time on Combat Mission, please stay tuned.